This conference will now be recorded.
Hi guys, welcome back. So first of all, uh, we'll start off with our class today as discussed last time. We'll have a practical revision. So before I start off with the practical revision, I wanted to, understand is there any specific topic or a particular stuff which you guys, would like to reiterate or, like any topic which you think we should go ahead with this topic first or it wasn't clear on for the revision on for the practical part. So maybe you guys can come up and let me know and if in case you guys don't have, then I'll take it up on my own. So, anything you guys wanted to, do in the revision, or in the practical stuff which wasn't clear to you guys, or it was clear, but still, you guys were a little bit confused, or you were not able to cope, you were not able to follow me with me like when we did it in the class. So, anything which you guys wanted to uh, start or wanted to reiterate. Naresh, Pranjal, Sukanya, anyone? Guys, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay,
Two people will not join. We can start.
okay, sure. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so guys, like anything you want me to start off with, or should I take it up on my own?
For practical parts, is it good? It is good. Means
Mm-hmm.
we can do. We can start our revision as you prefer. But
Okay,
yes, definitely need a revision.
okay, so you guys need a revision like complete
Just
revision,
a theory part.
theoretical part. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just quickly share my screen then. Let's go and start some revision. Okay, guys, just let me know once my screen is visible.
It is visible.
Okay, so I'll just start off from where we have, what we have
And
done.
one more
Yeah,
request. Can you point out the points that which will be the useful for the interview purpose?
yeah, definitely, sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so basically, or maybe we'll do it in this way only. I'll just go through to with all the slides whatever we have done till now. Mostly, like in the initial part, we kind of understood what IIM is all about, and then we went on to SAML OIDC. So the moment we are doing that topic, I'll make sure that I let you guys know that what is asked in interviews about these topics and how can you prepare for them, so we can do it that way, and that way you can revise also and you can prepare yourself. Okay, I'll just start the recording for this session. uh, I think it's okay. I think I'm not able to do it. Rakesh, can you start the recording? When I'm clicking, it's nothing happening here.
I think means I heard the message that recording is started.
Okay, I don't know, but like it's saying that recording is off. Might be that Rakesh would have, come in and gone, so that's why it would have stopped. Not sure about it. Okay, maybe Rakesh will see it later then. We'll start. So okay then. So guys, basically, we started off with our training sessions like 13 days back with understanding what identity and access management is all about. Like to be very honest, when you guys would be sitting for interviews on Okta, so they do expect that you have a little bit knowledge on what identity and access management is all about. Now the reason why they expect you should have little bit knowledge on IAM is because they might be having like whenever you are being hired in industry in identity and access management domain, because like if you want to be hired for Okta product, so definitely you are going to be hired in the cyber security and identity and access management domain. So under identity and access management domain, we have a lot of different tools as well, which works with Okta hand in hand. Like SailPoint is one of the tool which works closely with Okta, or there are multiple tools also. Sometimes what happens that there is kind of migration activity which goes on, like like we did single sign on for the application integrations, no. So sometimes what happens is like they are already applications are already integrated on some other environments, and you want to bring them to Okta. So at that point of time, what organizations in the market look for is that guys should have a little bit knowledge of IAM, that they should at least understand the language of IAM. Like, see, IAM is vast and it's huge. So no one will know everything about what identity and access management is. But what they expect is like you have at least some background of what IAM is all about, and you are aware of some terms whatever we have in under identity and access management. So okay, so that's why it's very good and it's very important to have some basic understanding of IAM. So whenever you are sitting for interviews, so you should seem to be like a complete package. I'm not saying that you should be knowing every IAM tool, but it should be that you are. It should like the person who is interviewing you, he or she should feel that you are part of this domain. You have some basic understanding of what IAM is all about, and you have learned the product Okta. So if you are fulfilling these 2 3 criteria, then you have a very good chance to land with an Okta job. So basically, we started off with IAM, and we understood that IAM is kind of divided into multiple domains. One is kind of access management, then we have access governance, identity management, privileged access management, data security, and analytics. So access management is kind of that single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. Federation and password management of the user. So out of this, we did see the single sign-on stuff in Okta, and also we did see the multi-factor authentication. I mean, sorry, we haven't seen till now the multi-factor, but the MFA part of the users, and basically on the access stuff of the users, end users which are there in your organizations. So access management deals with all of that. Governance is basically dealing with like the life cycle management of an employee, like whenever the employee joins an organization, or it's basically governing the access whenever, for example, you are having an access to an application, but it needs to be governed, like why are you having it, when that access should be revoked, or when that access should be renewed, and stuff like that. So that requires some automation, and that's where access governance comes into existence. Then we have identity management, which actually deals with the life cycle operation of the employee. Life cycle operation is that whenever an employee joins an organization, leaves an organization, maybe the employee roles is changing, and stuff like that. So all of that is handled under identity management. And then you have privilege.
1 minute.
Mhm.
Are you showing some PPT?
Yeah, is it not visible?
Yeah, it is not visible.
Oh, okay, okay, sorry. Yeah, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
Just let me know once it's visible now.
Yeah, now it's visible.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I was just, basically talking about the different domains under which IAM is, divided into. And So basically access management, governance, identity management we just talked about. Then I was just talking about privileged access management, wherein your service accounts are there. Like it is actually working with high privilege accounts, like high permission accounts, basically our admin accounts, service accounts, like they are not your normal accounts. So we are talking about access of those accounts which are having high privileges in the organization, like having a high level of access in the organization. And then the data security and analytics is definitely very important in any of the cyber security domain. Like basically when someone asks you what is cyber security, I think 95% of the people will say it's kind of information, like securing our data, or our information of the organizations. Now how to do that, how to secure is, there are multiple ways. Every tool, every domain has a different way to secure it, but like that's what cyber security is all about. So we need to secure the information, or we need to make sure that there is no data breach for any of the organization, and that's where data security comes into existence. So what happens is that this domain is actually divided into different subdomains, and every domain, there is a tool for it. Like when we talk about access management, so Okta is very rich in access management. Then if we talk about identity management or identity governance, SailPoint is very rich in this stuff. When we talk about privileged access management, then you have CyberArk as a very rich tool. And when we talk about data security and analytics, Okta is again a very rich tool, because like it allows you to secure your data, and in the reporting stuff also Okta is very strong. So there are different domains which Okta, I mean which IAM is divided into. Now the thing was like, why do we require IAM? So this is sometimes if you are giving a like entry level interview, you might be asked this question, why do we require IAM? Like, what do you think is the need of an IAM? Like, why are we not, just maintaining it manually or through our scripts and all? Why do we require to work with tools, or why do we want to purchase such product licenses in order to secure our organization data and stuff like that? So it is actually, IAM is kind of a critical part for any enterprise security plan. And why do we require IAM is because, like, now the digital world is growing a lot. So earlier, before COVID also, like there was a, like like see, IT is growing like anything. All we all know, like AI and machine learning is coming up like anything. Everything is getting digitalized, right? So the more number of identities which are coming in the market, the more number of, there is more risk as well in cyber security, right? So like if you are doing something manually, then there is a lot of chances that you might come up with a human error, or stuff like that. So that's why people are bring coming into this digital technology. Now when people are coming into digital technologies, hackers are also getting active. Okay, we'll come in and we'll steal data, and then we'll do all kind of that unethical stuff, and get money out of it. So that's why, like, the way, like, everything has a pro and a con, and that so is with this IAM domain. Like when identities in the digital world are getting increased for everything, like your phones are getting increased, your laptops, your accounts are, you are creating your accounts on so many social media apps and stuff like that. So the more number of identities we have, the more number of chances that we are, there is a way that we can get we can our data, or like there could be a data security breach. So that's why we do require, we need to make sure that we are kind of like maintaining our data in such a way. For an organization, I'm not talking about an individual over here. For an organization, their data is the most important part. Like if you're working in for any big organization, any MNC, or even for startups, maybe in the startups I wouldn't say right now, but for the big MNCs, wherever you would be working, like Capgemini, Deloitte, Amazon, Facebook, Google, for all of them, their data is very important. Like they cannot just compromise with their data. So when we are talking about these this about the data and stuff, so at that point of time it is very necessary that we have a streamlined process of storing our employee data, and a streamlined, because see, any organization, there could be a possibility that people from your organizations are kind of not loyal to the organization. They might be themselves stealing the data, or maybe reaching out in the market or stuff like that. So that's why there is a big need of it, that everything is streamlined. Someone cannot just come into join an organization and do any kind of stuff and just go away. So to make this whole of the process streamlined, so like from the day that that employee is joining an organization till the day employee is part of that organization, whether he's a loyal employee or not a loyal employee, we require a system that keeps on governing and identifying it, and accordingly allows the employee or the user to work with an organization as per what his role is. And then that employee, whenever he is quitting the organization or retiring from an organization, he or she can do it without making, without impacting or without doing anything to the organization, and that's where we require IAM. So how this works is something we have understood the last time, that there are four basic elements to it. One is that one is the data repository, then the other is like earlier, like when people used to work with the IAM, they used to maintain their Excel files. So what they used to do was, like whenever an employee used to come into the organization, they used to have their Excel sheets generated, like the data of the employee was entered in an Excel sheet. Then it was being given to the it was decided that which set of applications that employee has to be and given access for. Then they would be approvals manually by the managers and stuff like that. So now whole of this is being automated by IAM, wherein you require a data repository again. So like whenever an employee gets onboarded, so you get some data in your system, and automatically there are some applications which are being assigned to the employee. No one requires manual intervention over here. Then there is a system which keeps on regulating or understanding like what kind of access this user requires, or whether this user requires this access or not, and stuff like that. So that's how IAM works. And there are different tools, not just a single tool. There are different tools, because not a single tool, because IAM is divided into this 4 or 5 domains. So there are different, and every tool cannot do everything. Like OKTA can do most of the things over here, but OKTA also cannot do all 5 things over here. Same goes with SailPoint, same goes with OneLogin, same goes with Fortera. So that's why integration of tools, like integration of IAM tool become very important. Then we kind of understood what is identity management. So it's basically it's the organizational process for identifying, authenticating, and authorizing individuals or a group of people to have the access to the application. So basically we kind of understood like what authentication is, what authorization is, and under identity management, how are we like there is kind of a system which actually helps us to maybe authenticate or authorize people. Now authenticate is maybe verifying the person who you are, and authorization was that understanding the role of the user, or the access of the user. So from this perspective, like we understood what IDM was, and how it works. Like there is an organization, there is HR, and there is an Active Directory. And whenever an employee gets onboarded to an organization, the details are being entered by HR to the Active Directory. And the whole of this process is maintained and it's automated, and that's where I am identity management. That's how identity management works. So basically if you'll ask me, so all of this is very basic right now. And as I mentioned, like you, it's very good to have a little bit knowledge of, what IAM is all about and what identity management and access management is. Although we did mention about privileged access management, the access governance and stuff like that. But to be very honest, like if you're just, thinking from an interview's perspective, you just need to, understand about access, what access management is and what identity management is. And because if you'll be giving interviews on Okta, so people will not ask you much about the access governance or identity governance, or maybe they cannot ask a little bit on access governance, sorry. Yeah, so they can ask a little bit on access governance, but people will not ask about identity governance or privileged access management, because like they are very specific or particular to tools. Like when Okta doesn't support, so people do in the market do understand that if you are not like 8-10 years experience, so it's fine that whatever you know in Okta, you know it well. So you are not expected to know everything in the IAM domain, or even in Okta. Trust me, like when you'll be sitting for Okta interviews, they don't expect that you should be knowing each and everything in Okta. But yeah, they do expect that whatever you knows in Okta, you know it well, and you know it well with confidence, that you are not kind of confused by with what is happening and why is it happening. So that is important, and one of the very good points to remember while giving an interview, or maybe not just Okta interview, any interview. So then we kind of understood some of the concepts of IAM, like the centralized access, like the different terminologies or the basic terms which we use in IAM. It has nothing to do with regards to this is basically we understood because sometimes we directly use these terms and working with any of the tool, and then sometimes it becomes a little bit confusing when we say what is SSO or MFA. So SSO is your single sign-on, MFA is your multi-factor authentication. Provisioning is just simply creating something. It could be user provisioning, account provisioning, application provisioning, like just creating something is your user provisioning. So once we understood like some little bit concepts of IAM, we went on to see like how IAM is growing, and what is the future of IAM. So currently, like we had traditional IAM, then we went into the federation one. Right now, we stand over here on the IDAS part, that is step number 3. And in the coming, or we do have the SIAM also, that is customer identity access management. But right now, we are currently approaching to step 5, that is identity APIs. This is going to be very strong because it will be like multi-cloud tenant, and SailPoint identity now is one of the product which is on step number 5. So although we are just growing and there is a lot of scope of IAM in the market, and as I mentioned before, during COVID, people have realized how like they can be dependent or reliable on working from home. And whenever you're just working from home, or you're not on your office systems, so then there is more chances that that like attackers can hack you, or like they can compromise with the data security. So that's why anything in the cybersecurity domain is going to be very booming in the market for next 15-20 years, and not only next 15-20, but in the coming years as well. So like identity and access management is one of the very strong domains which we have in cybersecurity. So just to give you an overview, that cybersecurity is consisting of 7 different domains. One is your identity and access management, other is your endpoint security, one is your security operations center, that is SOC, then you have network security, then you have cloud security. So out of this, like security operations center, that is SOC, is leading the market in cyber security. And then you have IAM and the network and cloud security. So these 4 domains are actually very much trending in the market under cybersecurity. So anything under cybersecurity, and if the domain is trending, so there is a very good scope for us. So then we kind of understood like who is the IDAS leader. So actually right now this data is a little bit incorrect, although it was Microsoft last year. Now Okta has taken it over. So Okta is leading the market in the access management domain as per the Gartner's report. So and Okta is also coming up with a lot of new features in their coming years. So, a lot of exciting stuff coming in Okta right now. Then we have kind of understood authentication versus authorization, and this, trust me, like if you are going to be part of the entry level jobs for Okta, so people might ask you, a little bit difference on what do you understand by authentication and authorization. There could be that, they are not direct questions being asked to you that, okay, please help me understand what authentication is or what authorization is. But there could be scenarios where, you might be, asked on like OIDC is an authentication protocol or an authorization protocol, or SAML is an authorization protocol or an authentication protocol. So they might come up with the on the SSO protocol that which protocol it is, like it's an authentication or an authorization. And for you to answer that question, you need to understand first like what authentication is or what authorization is. So authentication is actually like the act of validating the users who they claim to be, and authorization, and it's part of like 2 3 steps. One is like your passwords, then you have biometrics, then you have one-time OTPs, and stuff like that. So it's basically something you are, something you possess, and something you have. So these three combinations helps you to authenticate your identity every single time. And authorization is basically the set of permissions that your identity has. Okay, so what level of access or permissions your identity is currently having, and that's it. Like that's what authorization is all about, what role you have in your organization. Suppose like if I have to give it from a very high level perspective, so if you're a new employee, then you have a fresher role. Then like you have worked with an organization, you are growing, then you become a middle like some middle level operator, or a technician or an engineer, and then finally you become a manager. So right now your roles are changing. So like this is from a very high level perspective, but when you go into like maybe in you got an access to an application at that time, you were just a normal user, then slowly and steadily you became a little super admin, or something like that. So that's how your role is changing for an application. Oh, first example, your role was changing for an organization. So like basically roles and stuff and access, wherever that comes into existence, that's where your authorization is. That's what your authorization is. Then we kind of, I'll just pause off here for a moment before I start off with single sign-on revision. Anything you guys wanted to understand, or it wasn't clear, or from an interview perspective you want to ask something till now. Okay, then I'll take that as a note. In case you have, just come up with your doubts then. Okay, next we just saw, what single sign-on protocols we have. Like we have SAML, OIDC, WSFED, secure web authentication. Now from this, this is like the core part of the interview. Like, most of your interview might go on this topic. If you are claiming on your resume that you have knowledge and experience on application onboarding in Okta, or application integration in Okta, or single sign-on integration in Okta, any of these keywords. So then most of the, like I would say, 40% of your interview could go just on the single sign-on protocols only. They are very important, very 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 important, to be very honest. And out of all of this, SAML is the one which is the most important one. Like you will be asked if you are targeting that 40% of the interview. Like if it's a 1 hour interview, you could expect that your 20 to 30 minutes might go on single sign-on if you have written, and if you're claiming that you know it. And in those 20-30 minutes, there could be a possibility that 15 minutes of your time is just spent on SAML topic only, followed by OIDC and secure web authentication. OIDC, there could be scenarios also, where interviewers are, more interested in doing OIDC, or asking OIDC questions. So that could depend on the requirements of an organization, because they might be looking for people who have experience on SAML or OIDC. But for the time being, most of the people do ask a lot of questions on SAML instead of OIDC. but it's not necessary that they cannot ask like it can be other way. Definitely they won't ask much on secure web authentication when compared to SAML and OIDC, but between these two, like SAML and OIDC, 90% of the people will ask more questions on SAML than OIDC, but then you can have those 10% of people who can ask OIDC and SAML. So while preparing for an interview, you don't need to understand, you don't need to think that, okay, SAML is being asked more, I'll understand this thing, or I'll prepare this thing in a better way. Prepare all these three, like, secure web authentication, SAML, OIDC, at the same level. It should be on your fingertips. If someone asks you anything on say, SAML, OIDC, and SWA, you should be knowing it well. And trust me, like, like even if you're not well aware of what other things are in Okta, like well aware, I mean that, even if you are kind of missing one or two things, like you're not able to answer, then all, and if you are, answering SSO protocols very well, then, you have a very good chance that, you'll crack that interview. So because it's being focused a lot, and application integrations are happening like anything these days in the market. So mostly they do, like, there are jobs coming up with only like SAML experts, OIDC experts. So and the SAML and OIDC helps you to get jobs not just in Okta but in other in other products of IAM also. So this just actually enhances, or just increases your opportunities in the IAM market. So do make sure that you understand this SAML OIDC very well. So when we talk about SAML, we had your service provider. I'll just directly move to the flow. We'll just discuss this one once, and if you guys have any doubts regarding the flow, just let me know. Okay, so we kind of understood that how SAML works. We had an identity provider, we had a service provider, and identity provider was the one who was trying to authenticate your identity, and the service provider was the one, like your application, who is actually giving you the services, or whom you are leveraging the services. If you remember, I had given the example of like your Amazon and Facebook. So it could happen that your Facebook is your identity provider, and you are going to leverage Amazon as an application, or the services of Amazon. So you're not directly logging into Amazon. Instead, you are getting authenticated by Facebook, and then you are like, you get that option on browser, right? Sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook. So when we were trying to get into your Amazon account, you went in with sign in with Google or sign in with Facebook. At that point of time, that Google or Facebook becomes your identity provider, and your application, whichever you get into, you can later get into the application by leveraging its services. So as an end user, the end user sends the request to the service provider, like he or she comes to the browser, hits the link of the application, it goes to the application provider. Now application actually redirects it back to the browser with a request. It's called the SAML request. The request is basically saying to the identity provider, please go ahead and check that if the user is a legitimate user or not, and trying to understand whether the service provider can allow the user to get into the system or not. Once that request is gone, the browser redirects it back to the identity provider. Then from the IDP, your IDP does all of that check. It checks that whether I have the user, whether this user can be authenticated or not. So, and once that all of that process is done, it sends a assertion, that is an XML document. It sends the SAML response in the form of an assertion or an XML document back to the browser, specifying, okay, whether the user was authenticated or not, whether like what happened with the user, at what time it was allowed, what level of permissions this user have, and so many stuff back in the response to the service provider. Once that response goes to the service provider checks, okay, whether this user should be allowed or not based on the IDP, that is your Google or Facebook, or any IDP. It will try to understand, your service provider will try to understand whether it was done or not. If it was done, it will allow you into the system, and you can start leveraging that application services. If in case it was rejected, you will get a message saying that like identity not found or anything. But like if identity provider doesn't allow, no one can use the application. If identity provider allows, you can get into the application. And now what single sign-on does over here is like you have a session here with Okta, Facebook, Google, anywhere in your browser. So you don't have to log into the application again. It's like you can just click on the application. The whole of this process will happen in the backend. You won't see it on the screen, and you will be into the application then. Okay, so you don't have to enter your credentials again and again for the application and what you are trying to get into. So that's what single sign-on is all about. Then this was one of our protocol, that was SAML. The other one which we understood was the OIDC one. This is again, and SAML is an authentication protocol. OAuth 2.0 is an authorization protocol. Yeah.
Yeah. So, can they ask that give me some example of the SAML in day-to-day
Okay.
practice?
Okay, so basically, I'll just let you know about some of the interview questions being asked on the SAML. So first of all, they'll ask you for sure, most of the people will ask how many types of flows we have in SAML. So we have two types of flows. One is the service provider initiated, and the other is your identity provider initiated. Okay, then they might ask you like, what is the difference between these two flows? Like, how would you identify that it's a service provider initiated flow or an identity provider initiated flow? So you can let them know that any user trying to get onto the application first, like hitting the application URL and then getting redirected back to IDP for authentication and then coming back to service provider for leveraging the service, that's SP provider. Like over here, you remember, right? Um, we went into Okta, and we went into Okta, and over there, like, we had our own end user dashboard, and we
Mhm.
tried to hit I mean, click on the application, and from there we got redirected to the application, right? So I'm not sure if I'm assigned to the app or not. Yeah, this one. So if I just click on this, and whatever happens, I don't care right now whether I'm into the app or not, but I will be into the app if my SSO
Mhm.
is working fine. So this is my ID initiated. But if I would have used the application link first, I mean, I would have gone to my browser and I would have gone, like, maybe use the application link from here. I will be from my application, I will go to my application first. From there, I will, like, not the application, that I won't be logged in. I will go to an application link, and from the link it will automatically redirect me to Okta. From Okta again, I will create a session or authenticate like this, however I did, and then back to the application. So that's your service provider initiative. So they might ask you, the difference between these two stuff. Then getting into the service, getting into the SAML, they might ask you about terminologies like, what is an assertion, okay, and what is a SAML request or a SAML response, and they might ask you a real-time example, like whatever I have given you on Facebook. So they
So,
might ask,
your voice is breaking.
oh, okay, is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that they might ask you about a real-time example, that can you, like, although I would recommend that they might not ask you, but still when you
Mhm.
are explaining the SAML flow to any interviewee, so just explain it with the help of a real-time example, because like what
Mhm.
suggests to the interviewer is that you are very clear with your logics, that that okay, you are, although, like, see, SAML is actually, mostly you'll see it on the business logics, although you'll see it outside of business also, like that or
Mhm.
like Google mainly works with OIDC or OAuth, so that's why we do not say much about Google. But like when you are just explaining it like with the real-time examples, although it could be that Facebook and Amazon might not be doing it, whatever I'm saying, that's actually not true. But like, I'm just giving you dummy examples because as an end user, you will understand more, because what is Facebook, what is Amazon is something you are
Mhm.
already aware of. So, as an end user will understand, okay, this is my identity provider, this is my service provider, and then you are explaining the flow. in the form of a real time, that would be very good. But if you're not like very much confirmed, and you're just helping them understand this flow, they might ask this flow also, like how this does this work. So you guys will have to explain this flow, and
Mhm.
that flow is something that you can ease it out by giving examples. But if you're not easing it out by giving examples, you can directly say it like we have an IDP, we have an end user, we have a service provider, and this is how a
Yes.
request goes, and this is how it is being authenticated and stuff like that. So this is one of an important question which you should prepare. Then they might get in deep into the SAML terms and technology terminologies, like what is assertion consumer service URL, like when, like what time APS is being sent to the service provider, who sends it. So like what they'll do is like based on this flow only, they'll start creating sub questions, like a little, small questions out of it. They might ask you what is a relay state, or what is the name ID, how attributes are being passed, or they might come up with, okay, you have an error in SAML integration, now how would you resolve it and stuff like that. So that is something we haven't done because that comes under import logs and monitoring. But what they'll do is like you need to understand this thing very well, very well. Like if you are aware of how the SAML flow is working, then you'll understand. Like first is you understand this thing very well. Like now over here you don't understand anything, like some terminologies maybe like relay state, or maybe assertion and all. Then you come back here and understand and read that stuff. So if slide number 16 and 17 are very clear to you, I think SAML would be very easy for you. So
Yeah,
most of the
that is clear.
yeah.
Means for me, this is clear. I
Yeah.
was just asking that, means can they ask that with the help of example, please explain the SAML flow, how it works.
No, they
So,
won't like every like 90% of the times they won't ask you with the help of examples. But like it's recommended, or it's a good practice to help the interviewer understand with the help of with the examples, because
ex-
it will just make it easy for the person to understand whether you know it right or not. Because sometimes we can stammer, or we can ourselves get confused. Okay, we have IDP, we have SP. Request goes from here to here. Now from where to where is something the interviewer is not understanding. So better to do it with
Right.
examples. But if you are not comfortable with examples, then it's not a hard and fast rule that you should be doing it. But it's
Okay.
recommended. Yeah.
Just another example that see sometimes we surf the Facebook or our means the Gmail page, not
Hmm.
Gmail actually, but let's take Facebook or
Okay.
Instagram. So there sometimes we get an ad of Amazon or the Wayfair like this. So when we
Hmm.
directly click on to that application, the link, we
Hmm.
directly will go to our means our user account.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
So means this is the same the funda that SAML flow works.
No, no, actually, this is not same. What happens over there is because, see, if you go to your browser, no, and if you go to the settings of your browser, and
No, on mobile I'm saying on mobile.
yeah, on mobile also. Actually, there are cookies and site data. So what happens is like if you are not on your browser, if you are not in the incognito of your browser, so and you just click on these links, like for it should be like whenever you are trying to log into something. For example, you are trying to log into Facebook, and you don't have an account in Facebook, but you are trying to log into Facebook. Okay, at that point of time you'll be getting options. You'll be getting first that Facebook page, that username and password. You are saying I don't want to do that, I want to sign in with Google. So now over there, when you are trying to hit Google, at that point of time you will be authenticated by Google, and then finally you will be into Facebook. That's what SAML is. Okay. But like if in case you are onto your application, like maybe Facebook, you are in the application. If you are not in the application, when I say in the application, means you have already logged into the application. If you haven't logged in till now, Like, maybe I'm just going here and, maybe using Amazon. Okay, and let's assume that, see, I'm not signed in right now. I understand. I'm not into the application. And now when I'm trying to sign in over here, I might get some option like see, there is no integration of Amazon with Google or Facebook because Amazon itself is a very big MNC. So they don't require it. But like there are many applications where you'll see that okay, sign in with this thing. So at that point of time, like over here
Yeah,
also,
signing with the Google account or Facebook
correct,
account, like they
correct.
ask.
Right. So over here also, if I just sign out, no need help signing in. So now sign in with Google. This is like, my SAML which is going to happen. I am not into the application. Let's assume Okta itself is an application. So now, like when I'm doing this sign in with Google, at that point of time over here, I'm seeing that Weborger and, I'm selecting my ID. And now after that, I'll be logging into the system.
Okay.
So this becomes my SAML now because to get into this Okta application, I was being authenticated by Google. I did not have my account directly in Okta. It was Google who authenticated me. Let's assume that. So that's what SAML is like. But if in case you are over here and you might get a link for Google or Facebook and you clicked on that link and you went to that application like directly without having to enter your credentials of Google or Facebook, that is not SAML. The reason why that is not SAML is because that is your browser history. Over there in browser history, you have your Facebook already logged in, you have your LinkedIn already logged in, so you don't require again to log in. But that's your browser history. In your incognito window, it will never go. Like it will go, but it will again ask you to log into that application also, like your Facebook or Google or whatever application it is. If it's a private window, it will ask you to log in. It will just not directly log you. So whenever you are being asked to log in again, that is not your single sign-on. If you're not being asked to log in again, that is your single sign-on.
Okay. Yeah, doubt clear. Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, so next we had, the OIDC concept, OIDC, and yeah, just, one thing, do remember that, OIDC and SAML both are authentication protocols and OAuth 2.0 is your authorization protocol. So sometimes they, interviewers just confuse you with this, okay, like what they can ask you is like OIDC. Okay, OIDC is a layer on top of OAuth 2.0. So they'll say that OAuth 2.0 is an authorization protocol, and you are saying OIDC is an authentication protocol. So you will get confused. You'll no, it's also an authentication authorization protocol. But OIDC was actually generated, or it actually came into existence because there was authentication which was required with this process. It could be that OIDC can be used for authorization stuff as well, because OIDC has a layer on top of OAuth 2.0, and OAuth is your authorization stuff. So it can be used, but primarily OIDC is called as an authentication protocol. It is not tagged as authorization protocol. It can be used for authorization, but it's not an authorization protocol. It's an authentication protocol. So just remember this thing, because sometimes they do confuse you with this thing that it's an authorization or an authentication, and we kind of get confused with what it is. So we need to understand that thing. Then we had a grant type flow. Again, it is something similar to like SAML only, although SAML and this works completely different. But over here what we understood was that there is a client ID, client secret, and over here also your terminologies are very important. And from an interview perspective, this is the most important slide. Like if anyone is asking you on OIDC stuff, then they are they'll be asking mostly on the authorization code grant type. Also these, trust me, they won't ask you with regards to Okta over here. Like currently whatever we discussed, that has nothing to do with Okta. This slide does nothing to do with Okta, or this slide has nothing to do with Okta. So what they will do is that generally what happens is initially they will ask you questions on general SAML and OIDC, because they are not tool specific protocols. Like secure web authentication is a tool specific protocol. So that they have to ask with regards to Okta only, but these are not tool specific. So they will ask you general questions on what SAML is, what OIDC is, their flow types, how do they work, how, with real-time examples, some of their terminologies, what is client ID, identity token, access token, and stuff like that. And then, slowly and steadily, they'll start move their questions to Okta now. Okay, they'll say that, how would you integrate an application in Okta for SAML? Okay, so we have seen how do we do that. We go to the application integration wizard, and we just from there we go to the applications, and from there we create app integration SAML 2.0 next. And what, so they will ask you, what are those two things or three things which are required for you to actually integrate an app SAML application. So you need to understand, you don't have to say that we require an app name or visibility, maybe this thing right now just to show you. So these are those two things, your sign on URL and audience URL. So you need to let them know that without these two things I cannot go ahead and do an SAML integration. So, and that is something they are looking forward to. So once you will say this, okay, single sign on URL, then they'll ask, okay, what is single sign on URL, what do you mean by it, and again, what is audience or entity ID. So then they will pick up questions on these specific fields. Once they are satisfied with it, then they might ask you about attributes, how do you send attributes and stuff in Okta and stuff like that. So it's basically the when we are talking about SAML and OIDC, the interview goes, it starts on with the general or some basic questions of SAML and OIDC, and if it's an Okta interview eventually, then they move on to that. If it is not an Okta interview, it's a general IAM interview, then they won't get into the tool specific. But like if it's a general, like if it's a, most probably it will be an Okta interview, right? So at that point of time, they will just get into the tool and start asking you how do you, because like every application like Ping Federate has a complete different way to integrate a SAML application. Okta has a complete different way. One login has a different way. So they, since you are saying that Okta, so they will be interested, how do you know, I mean, how do you do it in Okta? So that's how you should prepare these SAML and OIDC topics for interview. Also, if in case you get any doubts with these SAML and OIDC, just come up with your doubts. I think SAML is comparatively easier when compared to OIDC. OIDC is a little bit dicey protocol, and it requires some kind of experience to actually understand it. It's like theoretically you might understand, but you can tend to forget it very soon, because like if you don't see this protocol happening, so it's a possibility that you might not forget what you understood about OIDC. So keep on revising this until until you are preparing for your Okta interviews. But out of these two, I think like SAML is more kind of important than OIDC, because it's more trending in the market. But having said that, like there would be people who will be asking you more questions on OIDC than SAML. So be prepared, and prepare both of them well. Like don't do like I'll understand SAML more than OIDC because OIDC is not important. OIDC is equally important, and it's equally good protocol. They might ask you some questions on to like differentiate between SAML and OIDC. Some might ask you some tricky questions like which protocol would you suggest, or which is a safer protocol, why do we have two protocols, and which security wise which one would you suggest. So these are all trick questions. There is nothing to suggest. This is not like a like like comparison. It's not apples for apples comparison. SAML has its own feasibility, OIDC has its own feasibility, and there is nothing to compare in it. Comparison is like the flow. Okay, flow works different for SAML, flow works different for OIDC, but which one is better is something as an end user, what are your requirements, that depends on that. If you have OIDC requirements, we'll go ahead with OIDC flow. If you have SAML requirements, we'll go ahead with SAML flow. It's a big debate on SAML versus OIDC. Even on internet, if you'll see, right, that like SAML versus OIDC, which is a better one. You will see that some people will say SAML, some will say OIDC. You wouldn't get any definitive answer. So but that's fine. I mean, like it's not like comparison. So we cannot compare it based on that. Now if someone asks you like compare Okta with SailPoint, so that's not like a like comparison. Okta is made to do some, some, it's like the capability features of the Okta product is different from SailPoint product. So like, cost wise, like plan wise, user wise, you can just discuss, but you cannot discuss, okay, like single sign-on is Okta is very rich, SailPoint is not, but that doesn't mean SailPoint is a bad tool, or so as for the requirements what we have, we need to understand that which one is better. We cannot directly compare them in the market. Okay, so that's what your like SSO protocols were. Then we went on to secure web authentication. Now this is very interesting. Like this will not something which will be general, because like they will directly ask you about secure web authentication, and one of the questions that might be directly asked is like, have you actually done a SWA integration on your own or not? So like if you, because you guys have done it here in the practical session, so you can say yes. And they will definitely ask you on secure web authentication, like, is there anything required to be done on the app side? So the answer is big, because sometimes we tend to get confused, like because it's a single sign-on, so we think like how will application know, and in the interview. So that's why some practical experience of secure web authentication is very much required for you to answer. If you have understood whatever you did here, whatever we did in this practical session, now if you have understood that, that's more than enough. We don't require to understand anything. If you have understood how did we do this, and you were able to do it on your own, so then I don't think so you'll be able to answer all the questions. Questions could be what kind of parameters you require for secure web authentication, why do we require Okta browser plugin, or how do we get into like whether you would suggest SAML or over secure web, or secure web over SAML, and stuff like that. So over here, yes, you can do a comparison, because this is like a workaround for single sign-on. This is not a federation protocol. So that's why we can say yes, secure web authentication is only recommended when we do not have the feasibility for the federation, that we cannot go with SAML and OIDC, then only we can go with SWA. So on that, you can just answer the interview questions. But for secure web authentication, generally the questions will not be that difficult or dicey. Then then we went into the Okta to check, finally we created our accounts here in Okta. And also they might ask you, like people can ask you in the interviews, have you worked on with the trial version, dev version, or the prod version? Like dev version and prod versions are nothing but like the environment of an organization, like not Okta, but like for example, you're working for a client, or you're working for your own organization, like having dev environment and production environment. So production is basically where all the users are finally on board, and dev is like you are doing your development work there, and then once you are satisfied, okay, it works fine, then you move it to the production, right? So so they might ask you on which environment have you worked on with. So you need to understand the question, and then respond them. You guys are working on the free trial version, but because like in the free trial and the actual environment, there's a little bit different, not much, because see, like right now we cannot integrate more than 5 apps. Over there you can do like as per your plan, whatever the license you have, you can integrate that many number of apps. If you have a plan for 1,000 applications, you can integrate 1,000 apps, right? So there are differences in the plan and the costing of the license. But yeah, then we kind of understood the single sign-on feature. We did some practical lab on integrating it with single sign-on. Then we understood like universal directory. That's where we are right now these days, on the universal directory, wherein we are trying to understand the people in the groups concept. And finally we also have started the API access management. We were using Okta APIs and stuff. So there multiple features which Okta provides. And finally we went on to the universal directory. So like this is also very important now with regards to interview. But over here, like you won't be asked directly questions, okay, how do we create people, how. So they will ask you, how are people imported into your environment. Now people can be imported using different like you need to understand all of this, like first, second, fourth. So all of this on, yeah, I mean first four are very important in directory: people, group, profile, return, and directory integration. So like whatever you see here, it could be it could be coming because of the directory integrations, because you have some directories which are integrated with your environment, and because of that people are coming into your environment. It could also happen that you directly create people. It could also happen that you are, doing it with the CSV. It could also happen you're doing it through an API. So people are generally, as an interviewer, I'm generally interested, how are you doing it and how are you managing it? Like, if like eventually people has to have to come to Okta Universal Directory. Now, how people are coming to Okta Universal Directory is something I'm very much interested in, because my next question will depend on how people are coming to this Universal Directory. You say I'm manually adding it, then my next question is like, why are you guys doing it manually? Like, and how many people do you have in your organization? If you say we just have 4 to 5,000, then I would, just stop there. But if you say I have 50,000 people in my organization, then I would say, how are you doing it manually? Like, how much time is it consuming, and why don't you go ahead with some other approach, or why wouldn't you suggest? At that point of time, you might not have any answer. The reason being because you are saying that, you are maintaining the so a large account, or such a big portfolio of an organization having so many users, and you are doing stuff manually over here, which doesn't make sense. Manually makes sense when we are doing this thing, whatever we are doing right now. Or if you are going to have 1,000 users or 2,000, and you just need to add 1 or 2 people every week, so then it's fine, you come in. But when you have 50,000, it could happen that you are adding 200 people every week. So that doesn't make sense that, you are doing it manually, coming in and manually adding each person. So that's why, like, I might ask how people are getting into, what kind of groups are created you have in Okta, and what are you, have you worked with group rules? Now if you say yes, I have worked with group rules, then my next questions comes up like, what types of group rules have you created? Give me some use cases of the group rules. Why was it required, and how did you achieve it, and stuff like that. So you should have some practical use cases scenario, like the one which we did for Okta training. So we just, like, just give it, I've just given you a real time example. This is although not a real time, but a use case actually, that we have a batch of Okta, and now we have identified those people with giving them an attribute in Okta. Now the moment the person is creating created, we are seeing at the time of creation whether he's part of batch or not. If he's a part, then we are just assigning him to the Okta group. So that actually helps the end user to understand, okay, this person knows when to apply and how to apply the group rules. So that's why, group rules is very important concept. Then in people, it's something easy, and we haven't completed also. But you might be asked on different statuses a user has, like an active state, pending user, maybe password reset, logged out, suspended, and deactivated. So you might be asked questions on these status also. Then groups is something we just discussed. Then profile editors is something we haven't gone through right now, but yeah, questions will be asked on this as well. And directory. So these four are very important, to be very honest, like directory, profile data, people, and group from an interview perspective. But like mostly, see, this is kind of an IDM part of Okta. Like this is like your access management part of Okta, and this is mostly your IDM part of, that is identity management part of Okta. And Okta doesn't is not very much rich in identity profile, like with provisioning, with life cycle management of a user. Okta is good, but like you have better tools in IAM market with regards to Okta to do this. So it's like you have little bit limited questions over here. It's good for you, and because you're learning it for the first time, so you might think, no, we don't have limited, we have so many things to do here. That's fine. But like once you'll start doing or learning it, once you're clear with Okta, then you will feel that there is nothing much over here, it's easy only. So you just need to understand that, and like that's it. Like mainly questions are being asked on the directories and applications. And then this is going to be very important, the security one. Like most of your interview might go from here as well, like multi-factor authentication policies, networks, detections. They might ask you about APIs, administrators. So this is also very important, a very important app to understand. So like over here, if you see all of this, no, so directory, applications, and security. These are the most important tasks. Workflow is not, it's a very strong product of Okta, but the problem is like it's a very high cost licensed version of Okta. So no one do actually purchase it. Like not from our end, like even if you'll work with the organization, they also don't purchase it because like it's very high cost. Users like the organizations have to pay very highly to Okta, but it's a very strong product. Like, you know, you can do a lot of automations and Okta using their workflows. But although Okta is working right now to, you know, reduce the cost, but let's see when that happens. But yeah, and this is very important from your, you know, monitoring or, you know, troubleshooting skills. So this becomes very important when you are troubleshooting. So that's what your Okta is all about. And yeah, that's how questions are being asked in Okta. So we have a lot to cover right now. We are on people and groups. We'll next do profile editor directory integrations, and we'll just cover this directory tab and then move on to the security one. So yeah, I think yeah, that's it from my end for today. You guys have any doubts or questions? So, you know, just let me know now. Anything, guys, you want to ask with regards to interview, whatever we have done till now, and you know, anything you would like to understand more?
Right
Yeah.
now, we are good.
Okay, perfect. In the meanwhile, just you know, keep on practicing whatever we are doing here in the class. Also, you know, theoretical wise, it's fine now. Like you know, more this tab, you know, the directory tab is more of like practical implementation. You don't, you know, need to understand theoretically. Like everything, whatever you do practically, you should have good theoretical knowledge about it. But even if you're not following theoretical part on it, it's fine. But it's more important to, you know, follow the practical part. So just keep on practicing it, the Okta APIs which we discussed, the people groups concept, group rules, and if in case you guys find any difficulties, just let me know and we'll discuss it. Okay, so yeah,
Uh,
I think yeah.
will we ask about the postman too?
No, actually, Postman is something like a third-party application, so people might not ask you. There is another, you know, an extension of Okta only, which I will be talking about later when we'll be covering API. So you might be asked about a little bit on that, but see, what they'll do is they'll ask you about Okta APIs. No one is interested how you're doing it. You can do it through a Python code, you can do it through a Java code, you can do it through Postman, you can do it through browser. That's none of their business because like that is some other skill which you possess and that is up to you. Like you know, if you know Postman, good. If you don't know Postman, good. But for them, you should know Okta
Okay,
API.
so Okta API can be used in JavaScript also.
Anywhere, yes. JavaScript, Python, Java, anywhere we can do it.
So for
But
JavaScript means like in Postman we are using JSON.
hmm.
So means from which tool means we can use the JavaScript.
No, see, JavaScript is somewhere you require a server to host the JavaScript, right? Like if you're writing I'm saying like you can write your script in JavaScript, like,
Mm-hmm.
and you require some hosting of that server, no? Like from where it will be like Okta cannot host it. Like Okta will not be
Okay.
hosting it. Like over there, Postman is hosting it. So you might require SharePoint servers or PHP servers or you know some web servers to host that script. Uh,
JavaScript. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then run API.
Yes, exactly. Then you have to use the APIs, and over here in here you have trusted origins. So those origins needs to be added over here. So from wherever the request would be coming, like for example, you are using a PHP server, so there would be a domain for it, right? So you require to add that origin over here. So like Okta will understand, okay, I need to allow this request coming in from this PHP server or a SharePoint server or a web server anywhere. So that's how Okta understands and allows you to do their use their APIs. Over here,
Okay.
Postman is not allowed because Postman is kind of, you know, a verified version. You don't require it. But if you're using your own servers or, you know, versions, then Okta doesn't recognize that. So for Okta to recognize that, you need to add the origin here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Anything else, guys, before we close off for the day? Okay, then okay. So have a good weekend, and we'll meet on Monday, your time Monday. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.